Welcome.
Welcome to yet
That's not important
another
right
edition of,
now.
but that's not important right now.
You jackass. You did it again.
You idiot.
It was going to be a who's on first, Albert and Costello thing.
Yeah, this is more like,
It's like,
no,
who's on first?
this is more like another version of Grumpier Old Men. Has to be. Morning, dickhead. Morning.
Would you like to come home and boil my holy macaroni?
Oh hell no! Eh? Would you want to play with my stringy dinghy?
My linguini winnie.
Oh God! They just made this. Oh my God! I'm poor man.
So thank you, people, for coming and listening to us. Yes,
Thank
we
you.
are this crazy.
Yes, we are.
I'm Ian Reed. I'm well, I don't know what I am now, but I'm a.
What are you? You have an identity crisis at your age?
I am every kind of Renaissance man kind of guy when it comes to digital marketing.
You certainly are.
So I have my toes in everything.
Yeah.
I study a lot of things, but what I'm known for is naked chicks drawing naked chicks.
Oh dear God!
I'm kidding. Welcome to the show. We talk about advertising. This is Jared Butts.
Yes, my name is Jared Butts. I was in advertising for 8.5 years when I worked at the agency that has no name because it just doesn't have a name. And so for 8.5 years, I was the senior writer, one of the senior writers there. And now
award-winning
an award-winning. Thank you. I was beginning to wonder. I was trying to. There are times when I doubted my own talent. Anyway, yes, Ian is right. I am also an award-winning senior writer, and at the moment, I am hosting my own morning radio show on Platinum Hits 103.5 FM Monday to Friday. So from 6 to 9 a.m. So if you ever get a chance and you want to hear a crazy man on the air, well, you can always tune in and listen. So yeah, there's that.
Are you using a mic on your phone?
Well, not. I think so. It's just
you keep zoning in and out. So I don't know if that's a connection or if that's
maybe it's a connection. Maybe it's just. Hang on. Let me see if I can get it better.
No, that's fine. Whatever you're doing there, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, great.
I'm hearing you.
Good.
Right?
Okay,
it's just you started to get very, very quiet and muffled. And I don't know if it's because the cat came and sat down on your face or something.
Well, no, the cat does not. No, Daisy's not that kind of a feline. She's extremely. She's aware of her boundaries. Only when she wants to eat, that is when she misbehaves. So yeah, okay. But she's well fed now, so she's okay.
I'm glad you know your pussy that well.
I am very glad. I think every man should be aware of how to treat a pussy for a pet. A pet, as in cat, 4 legs. That kind.
Pet the
Thank
pussy,
you.
God. Pet the pussy.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Okay. So yesterday's episode was very well received.
It was?
Yes.
Good
we got a lot of people
great.
On Twitter talking about it and retweeting our conversation with the guest that we're going to be bringing on today, because we did talk about him in the last episode and he got very, very excited or wanted to come on. So we're going to bring him on in a little
this
bit.
Is good.
But if you're just joining us or you're coming back, just know that we basically talk about marketing, advertising, creativity, creative people, and I'm mostly in a Mad Men-esque kind of way, the stories that we went through while working in the industry. We both don't work in the industry anymore, but we still kind of orbit it. So we kind of are outsiders. Interestingly enough, Ogilvy just posted a disclaimer saying that they are not associated. Let me see if I get the disclaimer so that they don't talk rubbish.
That's very important. We've got to be very clear about
that. I think Sarah. I want to bring Sarah on for one of these shows to talk about actually running and owning an agency because she's very cool. Right. So the important notice: the public is advised that an individual using the name Kim Seema Gittins @Kim_Egyptian on Instagram has been found to be using the Ogilvy Caribbean name and company details to fraudulently solicit models for the House of CB. We
Good Lord.
confirm that this individual is not an employee or in any way affiliated with Ogilvy Caribbean, and as such is not authorized to represent us in any matter. Please
Goodness
continue to
gracious.
follow Ogilvy, blah, blah, blah. And I found this interesting because while at the agency, we had to put out a notice like that because I noticed somebody was posting stuff, asking for models on Twitter. And this is in the early days. And I asked management, quote unquote, particularly, what is this? And they said, well, we don't know what this is. So we had to put out a disclaimer. And this is almost a decade ago. So when I saw this, I'm like, but wait now. And then I saw the agency had also posted recently another notice saying that this person is, and it's always a House of CB. Now, I went and I checked what the House of CB is. Okay. The House of CB is a company in England with like 1 million followers that sell, fashion. They're a fashion house, right?
Okay.
Obviously, they're not, soliciting models for Trinidadian people, obviously. So obviously. I was like, well, obviously, houses say, I don't even know. I went and I looked and I didn't see anybody soliciting for houses CB, and I couldn't find this person on IG, which probably meant they deleted the post because what they're doing is, it seemed to me at the time, all those years ago, and especially when I saw the agency post recently, and then this one, there's a human trafficking thing.
Oh my God!
So they attract these young boys, young girls, come and take photos of you for free, and then you're in a hole in a boat somewhere, and next thing you're waking up with a big fat Arab, it's very scary, right?
Does it have to be somebody who happens to be of Arabian descent? It could be somebody else, Could be somebody from Europe.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking of Taken 2 because that's what happened in Taken 2.
So you gotta stop the kind of stereotyping that you're doing.
Well, I don't know. I don't know who has money to pay.
Anybody
who has money to pay for human trafficking, Jared?
I don't know. Ask Jeffrey Epstein. Ask Jeffrey Epstein, but you can't because he's dead.
Okay, so whatever it is. I keep thinking Jabba the Hutt, right? And slave labor, that kind of.
Oh my God!
That's why I'm going.
Now you're talking about huts.
Right, exactly. But hutters. Anyway, so to get back on track.
Okay. Let's get back on track.
So the reason I said this is because it seems to be an ongoing problem. And a lot of people will be like, but okay, if this is happening for so long, why doesn't somebody do something about it? And
exactly. Why doesn't somebody?
Well, this is why you have an agency association. So we're going right back again into that, thing that we talked about in the last year.
Right.
About the agency association. That's what an association is for. You're supposed to come together, talk about this, try to figure it out, do an investigation, and try to nip it. But I don't know, I don't know how far you can take this. I don't know if you can take it to the police or whatever, because it sounds very benign, but it may not be.
I think if our local law enforcement officials conducted a truly serious investigation into what's going on, I don't think we'd have these kind of scenarios unfolding like once every 10 years. For me, that's just laziness on the part of the powers that be. And I'm not referring to the ad agencies. I'm talking about what falls within the purview of law enforcement, national security ministries, departments, things like that. They have a kind of responsibility. They have a responsibility to protect the public, and this falls within their purview. So we've got to be realistic as well.
I think Ogilvy should really up the ante. I think so. Anyway, I'll have that discussion with
all ad agencies. All major ad agencies should actually.
The
more well-known ones anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, the reason we're going to segue into models a little bit. We have some sad news today that
absolutely distressing. A
friend of I call her a friend of the agency. She's a model. And I met her a couple of times at the agency, and she was a very beautiful person. She was kind of, I think the best description was from my friend Nadia. Nadia said she was she's like a unicorn, like an alien. She comes into your life and she's really, really, really strange, but she's really lovable. And that's what everybody knows. And I didn't know so many people knew her. Like
Yeah.
knew her, not just knew her Facebook, knew her.
Mhm.
She has touched a lot of lives and she was a beautiful person. And I think what happened was she went to Tobago and she she how else to put it, Jared? You're the best at saying these things
Well,
diplomatically.
diplomatically, I mean, it was said that according to the reports that we've read that I read online, relatives were saying that she was getting over some sort of death in the family, and I think she had lost her grandmother, and she was rather despondent about it. And she went to Tobago. I think she was invited to Tobago. I'm not sure. I need to reread the online
What
article,
to
but
stay with her family who own a
she was
resort
there
in
with her
Tobago.
family in
Yeah.
Tobago,
Yeah.
and she just disappeared. They found her clothes folded neatly in one spot, and they found her remains washed ashore. She was missing for a couple of days. I think she went missing yesterday. They made the report yesterday, and they found her body.
Yeah.
And she's young. She's so young. I mean, she was only 30 years of age.
Very good,
That's
yeah,
young.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
young,
yeah. But I
and
mean,
it's
I
really
don't
depressing.
think I think she just went for a swim,
Yeah,
and these things happen. I mean,
these things do happen. I mean,
you
my first thought, I have to admit, was that it happened. Something nefarious had to take place. That somebody was trying to go after her for some reason or the other, and it wasn't that at all. I don't think it was. There are those in the know who tell me otherwise, but we'll let the authorities conduct the official investigation. Let them determine what happened, what led to her demise, and let's see where we can go from there. But
that's
no
part of
matter
it.
how you no matter how you cut it, it's still a tragedy for someone so beautiful inside and
Yeah,
out to
yeah.
to 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 die at such a young age like that. I mean, it's really, really, really sad.
I
And she was
saw.
also she was also a competent actress too. She's
Yeah,
very good. She's a very good actress.
I saw our friend Anthony Scully, who was on the show last year,
Yeah.
posted first, and he is taking a lot of photographs of her, and you could go and check out his page if you want to see. So we
Hmm.
just have a little moment of silence for Vanna Giro. Um,
Stage
now,
name Vanna V. Hmm.
Vanna V. Take a little moment of silence here. Thanks so much for the silence. But I think that would be our way of saying thank you, Vanna. I mean, it's bad, but I mean, um, these things happen. I mean, life and death.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
life
I
and death.
mean,
Life and death.
that's that. The one of the things that we tend to overlook and not really want to deal with on a regular basis, but it's a fact,
Yeah,
is that death is a part of life,
yeah,
and it's something that we have to deal with. Um, some of us may not want to deal with it at all,
yeah.
but it is a reality, and it is how we go through it. How do we process it? How do we just try to think about what the good times,
Yeah,
what they did to enrich our lives.
yeah.
And I think the memories of that person, I think that's what really matters. And as long as we keep those memories alive, then they never then the ones we love and lose, they never really leave us. They're always here with us.
Well, that's what I'm
And,
saying. That
and that's a
Anthony's
consoling
photos,
thought. Yeah.
Anthony's photos are just going to be like, that's the person. And how
Yeah.
you remember her, that's the person.
And that's the person.
Her
And those
photography and her
right.
music videos and her
Yeah.
appearances on TV, that's it. And I can
And
already
she'll
say that is it.
right.
She wasn't a different person. That's the person.
That's the
Um,
person. What you saw
anyway,
with her was what you got.
yeah. Anyway, so let's move on. Last week's episode, which we are taping this week, it came out this week, and you're hearing this on a Monday. Last week's episode, episode 2, we talked about the infamous home medic Dick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So to be on a lighter note, not to jump from being, sad, going back up again. We have the same company posting something, and I saw it today, so I just want to mention it. I mean, we'll talk about it more when we bring in our guests. But
Sure.
the post is, they're having a sale now on furniture and TVs, and the headline is Snatch Sale.
Snatch.
Snatch Sale.
Snatch and grab it, or just plain snatch?
No, Snatch Sale is the headline.
Oh, good God.
And then the sub-headline is grab it before it's gone.
Right.
Yeah. So
am I supposed
to say that the client and whoever's doing that, and we bring in our guest Kieran now, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I wanted to start off with that because, let's start off with that. I want to mention it because it's the same people who did the home medic thing last week.
So, you mean the work from heaven? The work from heaven headline? Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah.
So if you haven't heard that last episode, go and listen to it. But we just want to mention that whoever's writing their headlines, I don't know if they know or they don't care or what, but yeah. But again, it's writing for social media. And the guy that we want to bring in, Kieran Khan, has a company called Huckleberry Media. So let me just read his bio.
Yes, read the man's bio. Come on, let's hear
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Kieran Andrew Khan is the director and digital media owner of Huckleberry Media Company.
Remote first
digital media agency founded right here in Port of Spain in 2012. So he's actually celebrating 10 years this year, right?
10 years, that's cool.
He's a freelance writer for the newspapers, and he was a freelance social media manager for us at the agency. So,
right.
So he has a lot of experience with social media and
tons of experience.
So this is maybe a good way to bring him in now. Just bringing him in now so that he could, jump in on the conversation.
Yes, it's time for Kieran to enter the fray.
With this wonderful. I'm gonna see if I could put this in the chat so that he could see it and give us his.
Let's see it.
Hello, Kieran.
Hi, Kieran. How are you?
Gentlemen, I'm good. How are you?
All right.
We're pretty good so far.
Sorry?
Are you hearing us?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Brilliant.
How are you guys doing?
All right.
We're pretty good. We're pretty good so far.
I'm putting something in the chat. We just started talking about it, so we thought this would be a good way to start and ask you what you thought of this. Can I paste this? No, I can't paste it. Shit. All right, hold on.
The miracles of modern technology.
Yeah, so we were doing while I sort out this nonsense.
Well,
we were giving a little synopsis of Huckleberry Media. So tell us a little bit more about Huckleberry Media and yourself.
Not a problem. You can WhatsApp it to me in the meantime. Okay, so Huckleberry Media was started in 2012. I started the business and I had two other friends that had the idea. We were brainstorming an idea and we were studying graphic design together. We were at SBCS, right? And what we realized is that a lot of creative people just did not know how to sell themselves. And I get in trouble for saying the word creative all the time, but you know what I mean? Like graphic artists, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they are creative accountants, right? Everyone's creative. So in this context, advertising context. And we realized that they didn't know how to present themselves, how to pitch, how to write proposals. And I was pretty good at that point. So I basically started to middleman jobs for the students in the school to find work. And so we kind of launched as like one of the Caribbean's first crowdsourced media companies. That was our first byline. And, we kept having to adapt, obviously, because of course things changed. Fiverr, Canva, all these things started to appear over the years. And more recently, this is actually our 10th year. In April, we're celebrating 10 years. So that's a big deal for me, because I never thought we'd get this far.
That is a big deal, no question.
And, people told us we wouldn't get 6 feet out the door. So we eventually transitioned into, and I'm pretty sure Ian knows a couple of them. So, we eventually transitioned into this remote first digital agency, because from day one, we were remote. We just work with creatives anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago at first. Now we work with creatives in different parts of the world, and we still do that sort of middleman job. So we're basically finding creative work for creatives, and then we're managing that. So our team is like a solid core, and then it expands depending on the project. We expand upwards. We can have 10, 15, 20, 500 people if we needed to. And then we scale back down. So we're a very flexible model. We're a very cost-effective model, because we have no storefront, no shop front. And that was one of the biggest critiques we faced in the early years. So for your listeners, I'm going to remind them that there was a time before COVID when working from home in your jammies at 9 o'clock in the morning was unacceptable, and it was frowned upon.
It not was frowned upon. It wasn't even discouraged. What's the word? It was beaten down. You were beaten. Mm-hmm. There were contracts that were written. You were not allowed to work from home. You were not allowed. I just as an aside, just before the pandemic hit, I got a job at a company, and they specifically stipulated that I had to be in the office because they were working on sensitive financial documents, and that could not be shared outside of the office. And I thought to myself, we're still working like this? But again, the pandemic hit, and we ended up having to do it anyway. So all that got thrown out of the window,
We did. And I would tell you, one of my early influences was, I believe he was the chief or lead designer at IKEA. So just when I'm starting this business, everyone's laughing at me. We set up a website. They're like, that's not going to work. People want to come to your office. They want to see your foyer. They want to see your lobby. They want to be greeted by a receptionist. They're not going to trust a type of agency that does not have any of these things. And around that time, I came across this article on Fast Company, and I think it was the lead designer at IKEA, and he left to open a remote advertising agency. And I was just like, well, if he's going to do it, that's all the validation I need. This model is eventually going to work. And then, of course, the pandemic hits, and now it's de facto. And before that, we had all the at-home designers. We had Fiverr emerge. We have, Instagram, Facebook, and all those things as well. So basically, Huckleberry Media, it's a company that's adapted over time. And today, so we don't stand still. Today, our brand is, it's one of wicked creativity. So it's always about innovating. And today we, about 4 years ago, we transitioned into the not an ad agency. So that's our handle on Instagram, for instance, and on Twitter. So we're at not an ad agency. We try to remind people we're not an ad agency. Like, we try to pretend at the start that we were. We did the Jazzy website. We put up all the team personas and everything. And the funny thing is about it, I'd be out and I'd hear people talking about it. Like, I was outside of the Scorch Magazine's office, and I wasn't working there anymore. And I heard people saying, hey, you guys saw this Huckleberry Media? It looks like some kind of franchise. It's very European. And I just stood there and I laughed, because what we eventually positioned, this perception of the brand, actually worked. And it just went from there. So today we're the Northern Ad Agency. We celebrate 10 years this year. We've grown. We have, more team members. We've grown into different parts of the world. We have alliances with companies in Ireland. We have agencies in Canada that we work with. So, that's the story in a nutshell. And I'm very proud of it. It was an accidental agency, essentially.
You should be. You should be proud of it. How do you explain your longevity? Because the attrition rate among certain agencies, smaller agencies, is the attrition rate is kind of high. So how do you explain your longevity? Is it that you were able to adapt to the demands of to the tenor of the times, as it were?
Yeah, so I have to temper myself, because I don't think you guys are going to spend time bleeping out. I would have you. I would have you.
I'm trying to do that, but yeah. So you could. I will.
I think Ian would just throw the whole thing in the trash and be like, I am not bleeping every 3 seconds because
I won't. I would just. I probably would just cut it all out. No, I'm kidding. Go on.
Anyway, but I would tell you I curse just as much even in business meetings as Gary Vaynerchuk. So I'm going to try to temper myself, but we're a no BS agency, right? That's the best way of putting it. We go to the client. We don't go and say that we have this model that was developed by our forefathers in 1945 while they were drinking scotch and smoking cigarettes indoors. We use this model to this day, and we don't go in with that. We go in empathy first, listening, interviewing, understanding. So we start from the get-go. I mean, when I started, obviously, we were working with mom and pops, and today we still work with a couple, right? So I learned from the get-go that you have to understand the business owner. You have to listen to their struggle, understand their positioning. So it's not that we go in with an RFP. We go in with an interview and we listen. But we do have, we're a small company. We get bypassed all the time. Our success is actually something that bites us in the tail a lot because we don't, if you were to look at our social media, it's pretty dead. We don't boast about the companies we have. We don't talk about the work that we do because it's a small country. And once somebody realizes that a small agency is handling this work, they kind of go, maybe we could do that instead. And they pitch that company, right? So our success starts to bite us in the tail. But I would say, we do have churn rates like any other agency. Like, sometimes we're cycling clients in and out and trying to stay abreast and stay afloat. But the one thing that I always tell people as an entrepreneur, the most important thing that I've learned over, 10, 12 years is resilience. Like you have to be able to, pick yourself up, get up and go again. And it's about being resilient.
It is a mind crushing because when I left the agency in 2017, it was like that for me. You're all gung-ho and ready to go. And then the first little pebble in the road hits you. And you lie down in your bed and you curl up in a fetal position and you want to cry because you're like, I can't do this anymore. And then you start seeing all these other people, your competition, and you start comparing yourself to the competition. And you say, why can't I do this? Or why can't I do that? And it's a psychological game you end up having to play with yourself. It's true. It's true. So,
absolutely.
But you have employees. You have people.
Yeah, we do.
Right. I don't have any employees. And the thing about it is, I cannot even begin to imagine having employees at this stage because I think my brain will just melt because I can't even deal with myself as being my own employee at this stage right now, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to deal with people who, okay, so for example, a couple of years ago, I was asked to join in a pitch situation as the digital digital marketing supervisor. So I would have a writer, an artist, and then the guy who was going with the pitch, his company, he was really an animator. So he didn't really know. He wanted to assemble a team because the client who does animation with him wanted him to take over their social media. And he's like, shit, I don't know anything about this. So we went to this pitch, and to present for this pitch required us to come up with ideas and create artwork and go and pitch stuff. And I had to deal with people that he assembled as like quote unquote employees. And one girl she just wrote in the group chat, she's like, I hate all of you, you all suck and goodbye. I'm like, but all I'm asking for is for you to give me the work for this. We have a deadline, this is work, and we're gonna get paid for this. And she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And she just digs out and leaves us. And then the artist guy, he didn't even. I ended up having to do everything. I'm like, look, shit, I will do everything, right? Obviously, we didn't win the account because it was literally just me and my friend going to this presentation. And they just basically sniffed out, nah, these guys don't know what they do. Because there was no team to present to back up. There was no, and then they are like, as you say, they're looking for an ad agency. And we always talk about this. I don't know how many of the other episodes you have listened to, but I've always said, we have a situation where everybody is looking for an ad agency the size of what we call the agency or Lonsdale or Ogilvy or whatever, but they don't want to pay for that.
I'm not you, Ian, so I'm not going to call any agency names on this conversation. But I will say, yeah, you're absolutely right. So that is something we do encounter. We do encounter that a lot. And here's the thing, right? Without going into details about it, we get, I would say, once a month, we get a major agency approaching us for one of their major clients. So the work's coming to us anyway. And that is, part of the reason for that tweet that led us to this point, to this conversation. That's part of why whenever I'm dealing with a client who we have a multi-chain supermarket under our management. We had a massive manufacturer under our management recently. And they always kind of say, well, the agency told us that maybe what you all should be doing is this, right? And I always have to remind them that they hired us. We're a company just like every other company, and we have expertise. We train, we do all the online courses. We have a depth of experience, and we know what we're doing, right? But it always defaults to like, ain't that cute? But it's wrong. So you ain't that cute, but it's like, you little upstarts.
Oh my God, Kieran, you're showing your age.
I can't remember what it's from though, so I'm really showing my age.
Two stupid dogs.
Two stupid dogs. Yeah, I thought it was Rocco's Modern Life, which nobody remembers anyway.
I remember Rocco's Modern Life. Okay,
you're telling Jared
for the record.
Remember those things. Let me read out the tweet, because that's what got us to this point. Now, our listeners, I have known Kieran a long time, and it's strange because Kieran is a friend of the family from way back. I was telling Jared that your roots kind of come from deep south because of your mom and Uncle Gary and all these people. So your roots come from this deep south, but you're not from the deep south, right? But just to say, it's very wrong about how Jared went and retweeted this tweet. And I looked, I said, wait now, just as you said, I know this Huckleberry Media people. This is Kieran. Mm-hmm. So I messaged Jared. I said, but Jared, I know Kieran. I mean, and he's right. He's true. This is right up our alley. So it was just like the universe kind of going, no.
Serendipity, they call that.
Serendipity. Let me read the tweet.
Yeah, read the tweet.
It's on Twitter, Huckleberry Media Co. @ not an ad agency. When people from quote unquote traditional agencies hate on us, we take comfort in the fact that we don't really care if they exist with their antiquated business model anyway. And we've been saying this like a mantra on this podcast for almost 9-10 months. You guys had a great chat with Chike, I think. The agency business is, okay, so I wouldn't say dead, right? It's not dead, but it's not alive either. It's just going along. I think it's just going along. It's just going through the motions. This is what's expected of them. But like Jared and I always discuss and with other people, there seems to be nothing. And we talked about the Ad Agency Association a couple episodes last year, where one of the things was there seems to be no desire to break out of this kind of rut that they found themselves in. They're in a comfort zone. And like you said, well, the agency told us to do it this way. Well, it hasn't been working for you. Well, no, that's why we hired you. Well, obviously, if you hired me to do it, just let me do it.
Comfort is the enemy of progress, and people tend to forget that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I said almost 10 years ago that the agency is dead, right? And I didn't mean it literally, because there will always be work. There will always be, well, back then the BPTTs or whatever, the massive companies that need that level of support and definitely need the structure in place, right?
Right.
But that structure has crumbled. It started to crumble with the economic fallout, about 10 years ago as well, I guess, when the economy started to slow down in Trinidad, layoffs started to happen. And then with COVID, it's a nail in the coffin. So, for instance, I watched, I'm going to call her name. I watched Ogilvy transition into the Caribbean's whatever first remote digital agency. And I'm just like scratching my head like, you're like, I actually commented on the post and I'm like, welcome to the family, but you're like 7-8 years too late, because there are other companies that have done this before. And we that's another thing. we do things in this country and we pretend it's innovation, and it's not. And I've seen a lot of apps happen here, and I'm like, why are we reinventing the wheel? That's a whole other conversation for a whole other time.
Absolutely.
The model does not work. It requires, it requires that length and breadth. It requires that depth of talent in-house, which no longer exists in the average agency. And now there's no in-house. It's all out of house, or as I like to say, out-house. So it's all in the dump, right? And the sad part is, as I said, we get approached to do in-house work for these agencies, and we take it. We're happy to do it. And I'm happy to do it because, one, I'm happy to learn from an agency. But I often hate to say it, don't. I don't learn much from the model. I don't see a model in progress. I don't actually get a lot of takeaway. And the second thing is, I have to question, well, the reason why we transitioned a couple of years ago into this type of agency is I thought to myself, well, if you're going to a top dollar agency and paying them top dollar, and they filter it down and they want to pay us tens of thousands or a couple thousand to do the work, we might as well just bypass the middleman now, which is the agency. Yeah. And that's how we started to get bigger clients. So a couple of years ago, we were working for moms and pops, and I said, screw this. I'm actually going to pitch really big companies. It doesn't matter if we don't get it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So the model is kind of dead. Yeah, I agree. It's pretty dead. It doesn't work. And a lot of it is outsourced. And a lot of clients don't understand that their work is being outsourced. So those confidential financial documents are being passed along to an entirely third party, and they don't even know.
I have many, many, many stories. I think one of the, that's why I asked, one of the first projects, quote unquote, that we worked together with at the agency basically went nowhere because, again, okay, so the process is this for those listening. The creative director comes up with this extremely highfalutin idea. The concept is we're going to do this. And okay, so I'm always been called the negative Nancy, but I look forward. I always take the viewers, know how you finish it. I'm like, okay, so if you present to the client and you tell them it's going to cost $2 million, how effective are we going to be able to execute this? We don't care about that. We will just do it. I'm like, okay, but then you just pass it down the line to the last person on the list to get it done. Just get it done. And one of the things was that Blue Vodka campaign. I'm hazy on the details now, but I do remember that when we tried to launch that the first time, we were shut down because they're like, nobody goes on the internet. That was the comment. So nobody goes on the internet. And this is before Facebook. When Facebook came on and we decided to relaunch the brand, I think that's when we got you involved. We need to do everything internet. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, doing everything internet doesn't necessarily mean that, it's just going to magically happen. There's somebody up on the top of the, and like we discussed the last one of our earlier episodes, that, suddenly some magic finger gets snapped and somebody ends up getting it done. And that's how they believe everything gets done, So outsourcing and getting things, expertise in has always been the case. But when I used to do that, like when I bring in a Kieran to do social media management, or bring in a Kenny Arno to do website design, or well, I remember bringing in app and he stole the client. I'm gonna say that out loud. I mean if that's how you do work, well, okay, that's how you do work. Don't love and war. I don't get them wrong, but I mean at the end of the day, it just ruins reputations. But what I'm saying is that you bring in people to do this new media thing because you don't have the expertise in house. But you go to the client and you tell them you have the expertise in house. You see, and that's why we always come back to the madman story. You go and present all this wonderful stuff, and you make the client all wet in the pants for it, and then you come back and you say, hey, well, we have to execute it. I'm like, okay, how? how are we going to do this?
Yeah. So I should also tell you listeners that I have worked within agencies as a consultant, but I've also worked in an agency. I worked in a digital agency that was attached to a traditional agency. And I think it was a chat with Quincy where he said, I try not to do that delineation because, I mean, I try not to do it myself, traditional, digital, right? It's all communication. As he said, that was a great podcast, by the way.
Absolutely, yes.
And everyone. And I'm working in that agency, and that agency is starting to fold under its own weight because the overheads are massive and they're losing clients, they're hemorrhaging clients. And somewhere just before the death, the nail in the coffin, I am summoned to the office by the head of that agency and told that because my Huckleberry was running. Huckleberry started as a side hustle. Essentially, I was still working some regular jobs, traditional jobs. And I was working at this agency while doing Huckleberry, and that agency owner pulls me into the office and tells me, if I'm going to be here, and now I never work, I'm very ethical. I never do any of my private work between 8 to 4 on that premises. But I'm told, if I'm going to be running this company while I work here, then I need to give them those clients and sign them over. That's what I was told. And I was just sitting there like, are you insane? And I was like, what's my profit share? What are you increasing my income, my salary? No. You're just going to continue to work and sign your clients over to us. And that agency is dead now. Just by the way, that agency has shuttered, it has closed down, and the staff work all over the place. I met great people there, though. One caveat. But I mean,
can you put in any WhatsApp chat what the name of the agency is? Because I would love to know myself, but we wouldn't make it public. But I will tell you, when I went to work at a small company, so the story was that the company was sold by a friend of mine. He owned the company, he sold it. Now he's in England. And the people who took it over, I thought, well, they would just continue on doing what they kind of asked you to come in to help consult, because apparently they completely flattened the company and trying to rebuild it in this new image. Now, I went to the interview and I was helping them out with a job. And then the man who actually owns it just shows up and says, well, we want you to work for us, and we want it to be a little bit more long-term or whatever. And we want you to work on your own clients. And that's a red flag went up in my head. I'm like, you want me to work on my own clients while yes, absolutely. We want this to be a free open studio. You could come and work on any client. I said, what's the catch? He said, well, the catch is that they become part of our roster. I'm like, wow. What does that mean? Does that mean they have to pay you? Yes, they pay us, and then we'll pay you. I'm like, do you know that my clients cannot afford you, which is why they buy me? They're like, no, we make a deal or whatever. And I'm just thinking of my lingerie client, and I'm thinking she will never, ever be able to afford. She can't even afford to pay me. She gonna pay you? What kind of stupid nonsense are you on? And that red flag didn't. I said, well, okay, no problem. If and when I get a client, because at the time I was pretending I didn't have any clients. If and when I get a client, sure, no problem, I'll bring them to you. Obviously not. You must be out of your mind to think, But then the boy, I call him a boy, he's like half my age. I'm like, you are obviously a child in the business. You don't know what's going on, right? But you think you know. You have no idea what's going on. And they're still going along. They again, the agency, there was another agency that was digital that suddenly became traditional. Yeah, I'm like, because again, nobody could afford to pay for digital advertising. And this is the other thing. I think when Facebook and Google started their stuff, I think I went to the general manager of the agency and I said, this is a bad idea. And he's like, yeah, well, this is the new way. We're going to have to do it this way. And I thought to myself, yeah, but the prices that these people are charging to do an ad, 25 cents to run an ad for a day or some ridiculous amount of money. We can't make any money on that. How are you going to charge a commission of 25 cents?
So that's a good jump off point, because that's the thing. Facebook, when it came about and when it actually started to push its advertising agenda, it democratized access to advertising. Because when I got into this, there were like 10 companies in Trinidad on Facebook. Nobody was on Facebook. Facebook was for sharing with your family. Facebook was sharing emotional thoughts via Facebook notes. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. That was the nature of Facebook. And when businesses started to creep in and the advertising mechanism happened, of course, the whole media planning, media buying thing of agencies went out the window. They can't mark up on it, right? But the interesting thing about that whole process is that it immediately almost rendered the campaign approach of traditional agencies. It almost made it null and void. So what I mean by that is, people hear from a brand and the brand relaunches, rebrands, recolorizes, whatever it does. It has a new product, it has a new label, and they spend millions behind it. And they hear about it for 6 months and then that brand is gone. Then their competitor does the same thing 3 months later at another agency. And so the cycle goes on.
Yeah.
But it's never like a consistent relationship building thing because you can't afford it. And then here you have this 25 cents per day or like $2 per day to keep your post current, relevant. The algorithms got smarter. You know, when I started in social media, you had to be on at 3:30 to make the post. And once you boosted it, it kind of, tailed off. Now the algorithms work and they find the best time to show it. So you have this relationship building process. And that's what I mean by that antiquated business model. It's sort of like, you go out and you have promo girls, you have pop-ups, you have events, you have all these things that happen and they cost millions of dollars. But I can sit on my laptop, now on my phone actually, and I can build relationships for my clients, for their customers consistently over a period of time. Yeah. So our model is actually based, that's the thing, remove all the technology, remove the words traditional, remove digital. When you get down to the core of it, it's psychology. It's people, it's behavior change. And our model is actually about perception change. So we don't try to do these big perception shifts because nobody's going to pay us to do that branding. They're going to pay the agencies to do it. So we just literally using that 25 cents a day, we just slowly chip away at people's expectations of the brand and shift them. And over time, we win customers. Over time, we create relationships, build ambassadors. And that's what I mean by that model is broken. Because a couple of things. The culture has changed and people are far more intelligent than traditional agencies give them credit for. Yeah. So there's no mono block of culture anymore. I'll give you an example. Like I was thinking of this the other day. I was watching Being the Ricardos with Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem. Great movie, right? And they were talking about the viewership numbers on I Love Lucy. And I'm like, well, I was like before all our times in the 40s. Oh, well, actually later, 50s, 60s. 50s, right? And so they were talking about the viewership numbers. So let me ask you, like, Friends was probably like a heyday show around, a couple of years ago for all of us. What do you remember the viewership numbers on Friends? Like how many millions of people were tuned into Friends?
No idea.
Would you say? No. Okay, that's
no
fine.
Idea. But so, it would have been more than I Love Lucy, for sure.
Exactly. But it's not.
Oh, interesting.
That's the interesting thing. Because here's the thing, Friends at its peak, I will have to double check the numbers, and I was watching it in the movie, didn't corroborate it, but so I'm basically like a vaccine influencer on Facebook. But you're looking at Friends and you're thinking everyone's watching this, but the reality, I think the numbers were like 10, 12, 15 million. The finale was about 52 million. I Love Lucy was so powerful at its time that they used to close the department stores early because no one would come to shop because every single person was watching it. I think their figures were higher than Friends' highest episode.
That's true. That is true. You're right. So, because I'm sorry, Kieran. Because on the day, because I think this was like in let me see if I can get this if I can get this right. In 1953, when President Eisenhower was inaugurated, that very same day at night, there was I Love Lucy, and there was more of an audience that watched I Love Lucy as opposed to watching then President Eisenhower get inaugurated, which just goes to show you that everybody did like Ike, but everybody loved Lucy. So that was
it. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And the thing behind it, because as you said more people should be watching it because more people have access to television. Well, interestingly, they have more choices. And when you drill down into the culture, even in Little Trinidad and Tobago, you have cultures that I don't understand, K-pop, J-pop. These things are split. You have people listening to music that I've never heard of because of the democratization that happened with the internet. Now, you bring in your agency model with your mono-block approach to people, and it's set from a time when media came down one central pipeline and was controlled by 2 or 3 big media companies. They said, everybody loves Lucy, so you guys are going to want to buy Pall Malls because that's what they smoke in the show. That doesn't happen anymore. So, that's what I mean about the model being broken and having to be splintered in a different way, approached in a different way. that fascinated me. That I Love Lucy. Viewers could listeners could check it out. But that was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned I Love Emily in Paris because it's fairly about the same thing. I mean, it's a marketing company in France that's all high fashion, in the middle of all of this. And fashion is something that is very fluid. And you're dealing with marketing fluid things, like one of the things she had to market was suitcases. And she decided to put this big fashion mogul's face on the suitcase, and everybody was like, "Oh, you must be crazy," but it worked, And she said that's what's going to give me social. A lot of it was social currency. It's building social currency, building the brand's social currency and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean that. So I have to look at what's it called again?
Being the Ricardos.
Yeah, I have to watch that. It's on
Jared, you've seen it.
I haven't actually, but I do know the history behind I Love Lucy in terms of the kind of reach that it had and the kind of innovations that were used. I mean, you could say, in fact, it has been said that Lucille Ball helped invent the sitcom genre, and not just the genre itself, but in how it was done in terms of filming it. Instead of using, they actually used movie cameras, because in the old days, in the infancy of television, they would use oh my God, a certain type of camera. I think it was called a kinetoscope or something like that. They would use that for television, but she insisted that they used the cameras for film and stuff like that. That would be the ideal thing to do. I think as well, it was the first sitcom to be filmed in front of a studio audience. So she was a pioneer in that regard. And of course, her foresight and Desi's strong sense of business, because he was a brilliant businessman. He was an excellent musician, but he was also a brilliant businessman too. So the two got together, and it was yes, they loved each other, but it was also a marriage of convenience in terms of what it was they wanted to achieve, and how they were able to get that kind of influence, that kind of pull. But it's like you said, there has been such a democratization of likes and dislikes. What we'd want to watch, what's your cup of tea, is not necessarily going to be my cup of coffee. So you would like Friends. I would prefer to watch Everybody Loves Raymond, but that's just me. That's me, and that's. But even then, there have been changes, and it is hard to tell now what's the next big thing. Is it going to be Ted Lasso? Is it going to be something else? Is it going to be something like Bridgerton? What is it? Because you can't exactly pin down what it is what's the flavor, what's the current flavor of the month. And you have to ask yourself, well, and you've got to be aware of what it is that people are into, because what could be the shit today ain't going to be shit tomorrow.
Well, this is what I would like Kieran to kind of give his forward-thinking thoughts.
Yeah.
Where, now that we're in the beginning of the year, and we don't like to say we have a crystal ball, but the trends kind of point in a direction. The trend of where, so you mentioned, look, there will always be need for a big agency to handle the big companies. I kind of don't agree with that per se, because I can still see a breaking up of, okay, so there will no longer be Saatchi and Saatchi running a Vodafone, for example. It would be a Vodafone marketing department that goes to Fiverr, goes to Upwork, goes to and pulls together a team. Call it an in-house team. And they would probably hire what they call them now. This guy works for one now, where they would do the data study of how much this keyword is trending and all of that data they could pull from people's usage of the internet and try to get a profile of a user and then apply a campaign to that user. So they don't need an agency for that anymore, per se. You know, you could, and a lot of the big companies now have been starting to build their own internal departments to do it. Now, the big agencies will say, yeah, but you, just like I would say, like I was having a discussion, Jared, you know our friend Natasha Gill. Shout out to Natasha Gill art on Instagram, some awesome artwork. She does some awesome portraits. Natasha was saying that she just doesn't have time to market herself. If she could pay somebody to market to her, she would do it. But she does not have the capital or the money to hire somebody to do it and to do it properly so that she could feel comfortable that she's taken care of, like as an art agent or somebody to do that. And this is the problem. So like BPTT would say, you know, we have a huge marketing department that could do all of this internally. Why are we hiring an agency to do it? Now, yes, the agency might fulfill certain roles. Yes, agreed. But I think moving forward in the future, there's going to be so much, what's the word? Jared, you could help me out here. Not breaking up, but
like a fragmentation or
fragmentation,
breaking up.
But not so much, but reorganization.
Reorganizing, reordering.
Reordering
of the status quo. Yeah.
You know, and then we come back to what happened with the pandemic. Well, what we call the pandemic has
the unspecified virus.
Yeah. What happened is it pushed a lot of people out of their comfort zones. But Kieran, what I'm seeing now is, and I was actually in an interview for a job, and the first thing the guy said is, "Would you be able to come in the office?" I'm like, "But why? Why are you asking me to come in?" He said, "Because I need people in the office." And I was talking to Robert, my brother. Well, obviously, they have all these big offices that they're paying rent for. They need to fill it, you know?
Yeah.
So what do you think moving forward? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, a couple of things. I will tell you, I think you're right. I don't think there's always going to be need for a big agency. So 2 things on that. I think that they will continue to exist, but for a period of time, and then they might just eventually go the way of dinosaurs. But the second thing is, in Trinidad, they'll particularly continue to exist because we have political parties that like to give agency owners Porsches to drive. So they love to go through agencies and just give them money to do posters. So, you know, that is a thing that will happen here in Trinidad, right? So I think that'll continue to some extent, but spot on, right? So a great example of that is what is the big snack company? It's like Mondelez in the US. Well, internationally, they have like Oreo, Sour Patch, Trident, all those brands, right? And they have big agencies that are working on their big sellers like Oreo, right? And we see those stories on Twitter. When the lights went out in Super Bowl and Oreo had that fantastic mini tweet that they put out and it went viral, right? They have big agencies that are responsive, etc. But the interesting thing is, it was a smaller brands with no budget. Sour Patch Kids, I think, was one, and another one. And their little marketing teams in-house in Mondelez went to TikTok because it was so much organic growth, and they just started to put content on TikTok. And now the little tiny Sour Patch brand has like 1 million followers on TikTok and a lot of influence, right? So I would also say that's incredible. I would also say I see people doing things that I think is just mind blowing. I see the young entrepreneurs here, young brand owners. They build their own brand. They have people that buy smartwatches from China and rebrand it, how they want. They ship it in. They have people that are creating customized. I mean, we see it everywhere. It's upmarket on steroids, right? But they're not just going to the shop anymore. They're not going to the Sunday market anymore. They're going to Instagram. They're going to TikTok, and they're doing amazing content that no agency can ever do for them. But here's the scary part: they're doing it for themselves. Yeah. So they're growing brands using their own creativity, using tools and apps. So I definitely think there's a fragmentation that would happen. I think a lot of companies, even big agencies, have had their portfolios split. One part of the company goes to this agency, another goes here. Agencies will continue to outsource and empower smaller companies to learn and to grow and to have, funding and capital. And those creative companies will eventually start to make impact in a way that the larger, big agencies can't keep up with. Because, what's that phrase? Show me you're weary, you're tired, you're sick.
Show me you're poor, you're tired, you're huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That's by Emma Lazarus. Yeah.
That's it. And I don't know why that guy's looking, because he just needs to walk around St. Clair or Ellerslie Plaza. They're all just coming out of ad agencies at lunchtime. They're all there. Those people that he's looking for, they're all coming out with their hoodies on and they're going brr, and they're like, foraging for lunch. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I really don't. Just lightheartedly. They come to work at 8 when the office is open and they do their creativity and they're like, oh, it's 11 o'clock time for a snack. It's 12 o'clock time for lunch. It's 1 o'clock. That's not how creativity works. That's not how brands are going to be built anymore. They really require a different level of creativity. So I think a couple of things. I think software as a service, I think those websites like Fiverr, I think, that's going to continue. One thing I do see happening as well is that we think that these monolithic social media companies are going to continue, but I actually think that it's just a guess at this point, but I think that we're going to see the emergence of niche social media networks. I think we already are seeing it. So, people left Facebook a million years ago and Instagram, and you realize that after a while, all these social networks become almost the same thing. They have stories, they have messages, they have DMs, they become the same thing. Yeah. And I think you're going to see like niche social. You might see like a K-pop social media, if it doesn't already exist, channel emerge. And those kids are not even posting on Instagram anymore. They're posting on that, like Mind Valley Academy, which is that wellness, company, that big, health and wellness company, as always on Facebook. Right. They have their own social media network. They're not depending on Facebook anymore. They're building their own. Donald Trump tried to build his own Facebook, his own social media network. So I think that'll continue to happen. I think that'll happen, but all the other, small changes will continue to snowball. So what I always tell people is this is good advice for anybody who's listening in and they have their brand and they're trying to grow it. Yeah, look at the data. That's cool. Look at your insights. That's great. But I actually spend more time reading comments than studying data. Yeah. It's mostly because I can't write. Naturally. So I'm drawn to the written word over the numbers. Yeah, but of course. And I have people that can walk through the numbers with me. That's great. But in the comments, I would watch a YouTube video and read comments. I would look at what people say about a post goes up on Instagram, what they say about it, how they comment. Now, there's a lot of vitriol happening in there. There's a lot of anger. It's a whole other side story. That's a whole other comment on social media today. But if you pay attention to what people are saying in the comments, you will eventually start to find ways to kind of hone your brand, what people are looking for, how to market yourself differently, how to niche yourself differently. When we launched the Not an Ad Agency thing, there was nothing like it. We were just vehemently rejecting the ad agency model. And about 4 months ago, just on Instagram with our exact colors, black and white and yellow, comes an account created by a Trinidadian called We're Not an Ad Agency, and this person creates Not Another Ad Agency. And it's the same services that we offer. So I always imitation, right? Flattery. We always try to find ways to niche ourselves away. But we learn those things because people are talking about it. It's in there. You just have to keep reading. That's all I tell people all the time. So that's where I see things going. I see a continued democratization of marketing. I see a lot of small firms, a lot more people being fed at the table of marketing and not the monolithic thing. And then even the social media companies, they might fragment. Maybe we could listen to this in 10 years and we could reconnect and I'm right. That would be cool.
That would be I don't know what's going to happen. One day, Anchor might just disappear and all these podcasts will disappear. It happens. But
we don't have no idea what's going to happen in the next 10 hours, much less 10 years.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say is that somebody actually just today was trying to find out on one of the social media marketing groups on Facebook, who is doing HBO Caribbean's
oh my God, a coconut water in one hand, the doubles in the other, riding around the savannah with a top hat on our way to Maracas. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah.
Okay, so the comment was, I had no idea that existed before. I know they exist now, but the comment was that the tone changed, right? I don't know what the tone was before, so I can't compare. But what I'm reading now is like, okay, I'm reading it, I'm like, I don't really see the problem, because I think they've seen who their market is, and they're talking to the people that they think will listen to them. Now, mind you, I am not a guy to go and start spending. I think it's ridiculous that I have to spend for 5 different streaming services, right? I was spending for one streaming service, maybe 2. I asked the kids if they wanted me to invest in Disney Plus, and they're like, no. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna get Disney Plus for them because they're not gonna watch it. So fine. But again, I am not going to read HBO Caribbean and suddenly decide I want to go and subscribe to HBO, whatever it is. I'm like, so I'm reading this stuff, and it's like, neither is it. But maybe I am out of the. I'm not
thinking. Yeah. So I think I did see the tone change recently, and I did see they got a little sharper, a little smarter. So whoever's working on it, kudos to you for actually coming around, and trying to be relevant and trying to be responsive. But there's also that gray area where sometimes you're trying just a little too hard, to be impressive, and you're trying a little too hard to be liked. And it sort of comes off a weird way, but you're right. I mean, I do understand your point. That just reminding me about HBO Max exists, and look, Superman is on, and look, Euphoria is on, and look, this show is on. I don't know if that's going to work. Who knows? But I did notice it. I did notice the change. I do like when they put out their little program and say, this is new this week, or this is new this month. That's cool. But if you want to save a bunch on streaming services, soaptoday.cc. I mean, like, everything is free on it, and it streams brilliantly. I'm not a streamer. I used to torrent. I hate streaming things, but like, I just cancel all my services and use that. I don't know if I can talk about that. It's copyright.
You're a pirate, baby. In the high seas.
I should be encouraging copywriting. Yeah, as a creative, I shouldn't be encouraging people to steal creative things online.
I think so. There are people here who would immediately take their phone and throw it and say, I'm not listening to these people anymore. They're advocating crap, All right, okay. No, we're not advocating piracy.
Just saying, if you can't afford it, and your kids are driving you insane, then maybe. Another thing is, you mentioned Emily in Paris, right? And a couple of people, including family, they were like, hey, you should watch the show. That's basically like what you do. Yeah, and I ripped my TV off the wall and threw it out the window. I'm like, this is not what I do. This is not what social media managers do. This has nothing to do with my job. You spend more time like, I don't know. I just ripped the whole thing off and like, phew, because this is so it's like watching ER, and you know how many people watch ER and then became a doctor or Grey's? Yeah, it's the same thing. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, that's cool. I get to go to Paris and be fancy. Anyway, but
interestingly enough, I asked my cousin, you know my cousin. Yeah, I think you met her here before.
Yes.
Her husband is a doctor.
Right.
And her husband, I asked once if what is in House and Grey's Anatomy is real. And he said, absolutely. He said, those are actual real cases that they've used. He said, it may sound crazy to you, but we've seen some crazy shit in our ER. We've seen some crazy shit in hospitals. Things that people do to themselves. it's you want to know the human ability to hurt themselves. It's just amazing. Anyway, we're coming off the point, and we've actually spent a very, very long time, and I think we've gone over the time. I kind of let it go over time because this is very interesting, and I think a lot of people would like to hear this. We think. I mean, my feeling is that what the pandemic has kind of accelerated a lot of what you're talking about. We would not have seen this if it wasn't for some of the things that happened. And there is an attempt to try to roll things back, but we're too late. And we're not even out of the pandemic yet. We can't even safely say, yeah, we could start operating normal hours. And even though the government wants to send children back to school, parents are like, no, I don't think I really want my child back in school. So again, if I were working in an office and you tell me I have to come and work back at the 8, I mean, if I was working at the agency now and the pandemic, let's say the pandemic was declared over, and you tell me, oh, Jared, okay, you all have to come back in here from 8:30 in the morning till 5 as the usual times, I would actually tell them no. I'd say no. Yeah. I'd say why? What would be your reason? You have no reason to. We've done this for the last 2 years or whatever successfully, as far as I'm concerned. Why would you want to do that? But again, it's all kind of other things that we would have to think about, you know. But Jared has to be in his office because he's a studio. So Jared has
as a studio.
Yeah, that's different. And I was just gonna say, I mean, you know, certain jobs require you to be there. You're an engineer in an oil company or whatever. But I just don't see how advertising requires you to be sitting at a desk, staring at your computer, watching Netflix until you're given some copy to write.
For years, we've been saying it. Years and years, almost 10 years, we were like, but the internet allows us to work anywhere. No, you have to be here. You have to be here. I have to see what the guy told me. I have to see what you're doing. That is essential. I have to see what you're doing. The micromanaging was essential.
I mean, I'm sorry. I had to make an anal reference in less than 2 minutes, and I'm not very happy about that. I'm sorry.
All right.
It's bums and chairs. Yeah, that's the nature. I mean, that is a whole other story. But you know, it has to do with it has to do with the colonial mindset. It has to do with the right country. But that's not important right now. So,
no, that's not well done, Kieran. Well done. Oh my God, Jared, I think we have somebody we could bring onto the show more often. You've got the rhythm and the rubric.
I don't have velvet voice like Jared, but I'll try.
Oh, somebody's like, what velvet voice? What is he talking about? Is he on drugs? Friend on drugs.
I'm trying to figure out what kind of velvet voice I got because I don't, maybe crushed velvet or something. I don't know.
Jared, we're not hearing you. Jared, I'm not hearing you. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me now?
No.
How about now?
No.
You're not hearing me?
Well, you're kind of like in a tunnel. Anyway, let's wrap this up.
To the tunnel, Rapunzel. To the tower, tunnel. What?
Okay. That is not important right now. It's like a big Tylenol. It looks like a big Tylenol.
What
are we defining, Jared?
What are we defining? What is the defining word that we're talking about? Wow, so much to unpack here.
But the general theme about this is remote work. So have you ever defined remote work before?
I don't think we've ever defined remote work. What exactly is remote work? Who can explain it? Who can tell me?
Well, you take a whack at it, Jared.
I guess I have to, considering that my background is in writing. Yes. Remote work means, in essence, working from home, not having to physically be there at work in order to affect the kind of results that management is looking for. It's something that you could do, you know, within the privacy and comfort of your home, as opposed to actually physically being at work. It's a reimagining, it's a reordering, if you will, of how work is affected in this day and age. But
that's not important right now. Thank you guys for listening. Kieran, thank you for coming on. This was great.
This was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, we will definitely have you back on. We have a lot of shows coming up before we intend to do quite a bit of shows this season. And then we take a little break. So we will.
I just wanna before you sign off, I just wanna shout out the couple that has sex to this podcast because I hope that my voice has brought a new level of excitement to their lives. Just keep doing you.
God, we lost that one. I'm sorry, we lost our guest. Our guest is gone. We'll do them on you.
Slow clap them. Just
all right.
And then, this was like a 90 minutes, so this was a good session for their week. Okay. This was good for me too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, we will see you all. Have a good week. This is a Monday, so you all bound to have a good week, and we will be seeing you later. Bye,
Bye, guys.
Thanks, John. Later.
Thank you. Bye, Ian. See ya.